Peace be with you. Okay. We're getting on the bus. Me and, pardon the grammar, me and a whole bunch of young Missouri boys, draft age, farm boys, kids that maybe got through high school and didn't go to college. They were just working their farm with their family or something. And there we were on the Greyhound bus, getting on the bus. I had just heard Stephen Gaskin speak. I was in my senior year of college. I dropped out of college because I was going to go do something else. And a week later, I got my draft card, and we're on the bus going to get our pre-induction physical. We all got on the bus. The fear was palpable, even though there were a lot of nervous laughs and trash talk by the young guys. They were all afraid, trying not to show it, for that would not be manly by their macho man social conditioning standards, which, by the way, cause more heart disease among men than women, to shove emotional feelings deep inside instead of let them come out like women are allowed to do in society. That's another story. Just as an aside, there's a man named James Green that wrote a book called The Male Herbal, and there's a chapter in there that say men die more of heart attacks than women do because they're told at an early age to men don't cry, men don't, do any of that. So men just like John Wayne and all that stuff. And that's why men have more heart problems. Okay. They were all from poor homes, these kids, these rural farm kids on their way to the slaughter. I felt so much on that bus ride, so much compassion for them all, yet no fear for myself. It was not the mushrooms or the weed. It was what those medicines were showing me inside of my heart and soul. And Allah said to me, although I did not call him Allah back then, just God, and maybe I had a chat with Jesus once in a while, peace be upon him, but God said to me inside of myself, don't be afraid, I'm with you. When we got to St. Louis, still before dawn, we were led to a large room in the Federal Building in St. Louis with high ceilings, not quite bright enough fluorescent lights, pale green walls and floor, and school desks and chairs neatly lined up row after row. Must have been hundreds of them. We all took seats at desks as the room filled up with other busloads of Missouri's young men who came from farms and from financially lower class society. There weren't any senators' sons there. Didn't see any senators' sons there. A man not much older than myself came out of a back room and began to shout at us, as if we were already in the army and we had done something wrong. He was uniformed and had a few medals on his chest. There was a pencil and a blank form on each desk. The army officer yelled at all of us to pick up our pencils and fill out the form. My training kicked in from my parents, who always told me to read something before I sign it. So I read it, and I did not go further than the very top line of the form, which read in bold type, application for registration into U.S. military service. Remember, I was, as they say, tripping. To me, that meant I was experiencing a heightened and intense experience of reality. I most certainly had not come to St. Louis to register for military service. That was not what the letter had said. It said they just wanted me to take a pre-induction physical, which I was willing to do, but had no intention of allowing myself to be inducted, or induced rather, to join the military at that time. Talk about high pressure, one called closing. Phew! America was not under any threat of being attacked. I knew Vietnam was a false flag operation and that it was mainly for profit, not to defend liberty and justice for anyone. At this moment, one word came into my mind in bright neon, with lights all around it showing me exactly what was going on, all in one word. It's called duress. D-U-R-E-S-S. Duress is, defined, threats, violence, constraints, or other action used to coerce someone into doing something against their will or better judgment. Origin, Middle English, in the sense harshness, severity, cruel treatment. Okay? Everyone in the room who had been bussed into St. Louis was under duress. And this is a legal term. I immediately but calmly, slowly, and deliberately set down my pencil, took off my favorite rust-colored, wool turtleneck sweater, got down to my undershirt, I was getting warm, folded it neatly and set it on my desk next to the pencil and the blank form. The officer was making the rounds of the large room, leaning over some of the young country boys and obviously harassing, intimidating, and otherwise loudly, verbally, and psychologically abusing them. I was just sitting peacefully practicing no mind, and he noticed me and came my way like a bull who had just seen the brightest red thing it had ever seen. Maybe it was my sweater, I don't know. He forced his face right up to within inches of mine. I was seated and he was standing over me, leaning in, and demanded to know why I was not filling out the form like everybody else was. An appeal to peer pressure that was the lamest and weakest appeal to peer pressure I have ever experienced. I calmly explained to him that I had not come to St. Louis to apply for military service. That was not what the letter said. I had it with me neatly folded in my pocket, unfolded it, and showed him. Then his face changed colors from greenish to purplish, and then into a mottled mixture of both. I thought his head might explode for a moment, then realized it would not. It just looked that way because I saw more than this physical. In my altered state of awareness, I was seeing all of him, his energy. He walked away from me in a huff. May Allah guide him. Then we were all told to stand up and take our applications and go into another room with lockers. We were told to strip down to our underwear. At that time, I did not wear underwear. I was clean and had taken a shower, but was not wearing underwear. Not just for that occasion, but I just didn't wear it at that time in my life. It felt constraining. I never found that any were comfortable. So there I was, naked and hairless, in line with a bunch of guys in their underwear, waiting for the next step in the process. I was approached once again by another officer who asked me why I was naked, and I told him. We all went through some basic exams, and then I was taken aside and told to wait in an office. Another officer came in who reminded me of Captain Kirk from Star Trek, which had recently had his debut in the mid-1960s. This officer was calm and cool. I was dressed by then, and he had me sit in a corner of his office while he took care of some other matters. There was a cutout in the wall behind him, and I could see torsos of the people in the line I had just come out of, moving slowly along as if on a conveyor belt. Then one of the examiners, a supervisor, maybe a doctor, maybe not, in a long white coat, came rushing into the office and was complaining about how it was Friday and they had to move 200 bodies before the weekend and things weren't on time and he didn't want to have to stay late. Captain Kirk listened calmly to the doctor, then shot me a look like George Burns used to use to the fourth wall, the camera, the viewing audience, as if to say, "Welcome to my world. And I see and agree exactly what you're talking about and where you're at." He looked at me and we had eye contact, and he understood what I was doing and I understood. We connected. He said a few words to me about how I would be contacted in the future. We shook hands and I got back on the bus to Columbia with the guys I had come with. This matter was finally resolved later, and the resolution is in the next chapter. The whole experience at the draft board felt like I had stepped into Arlo Guthrie's recently released classic Alice's Restaurant with regard to his trip to the draft board. And although no one was jumping up and down yelling, "Kill, kill, kill," that guy in the white coat who came into Captain Kirk's office complaining that he had to push 200 bodies through before the end of the day came pretty close. Okay. Chapter 8, The Tailwind from the Creator of the Universe. Then I did some hitchhiking around the country, went and visited some old friends, took a break, got off the college conveyor belt that was leading me to a place I did not want to go. But I did not know that until the conveyor belt was almost at its destination. Graduation. This broke my parents' hearts. I will go into that later. And